What is your path to Dharma?
Here we are, Path to Dharma
Here we
podcast.
are. Welcome back.
Welcome, Shannon here. Here with Shay, reading the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Really excited to be here still. You know, we've been going at this for a while, Shay. I'm pretty proud of us.
Yeah.
We haven't been perfect every single week, posting on the same exact time and day, but we've been doing it. We've been reading it, and it's been amazing. So if you're new to our channel, Shay and I have been reading Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. We're in the second half of the third canto. Yeah, chapter 27 is where we're landing right now. So we've just been reading along and learning and talking about it. We talk about it, you know, quite a bit when we're not here afterwards. We haven't pre-read anything, and we decided that we wanted a fresh, real reaction. So we don't read ahead. We read it as you're hearing it, as we're reading it for the very first time. So you may actually hear us talking about how we're not sure what this is even, and that's why. And we're not here to teach you at all. In fact, you're teaching us. Thank you so much, dear listener, watcher, viewer. We learned so much from you. We've had some beautiful comments lately, and I really thank the people that spent some time making those comments for us. Really
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to offer our reading up to Krishna.
Yes.
I devote this channel, really. I think we have devoted this to Krishna, and our reading, I devote this to you, Krishna. I'm really excited for this chapter. Last chapter blew our minds, as every chapter seems to do. So I'm really looking forward to this chapter. Are we ready for obeisances?
I think so. I mean, do we want to recap slightly if you haven't ever watched our channel before and you're just you're curious, what does the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam even say?
Sure.
So we're in the middle of a conversation between Kapila and Devahuti, his mother, and she's asking him, hey, like, just break it down for me. What's up? Tell me what's up, Kapila. And he starts to just tell her how it is. Like, this is how the universe is, and this is how it's made, and this is how it works. And
bonkers. It's bonkers crazy.
It's so good. It's so good.
So good.
It's really layered, I've noticed, on top of it's like we learn something, Sutta Goswami tells us something, and then we'll hear it again from Narada Muni, and then we'll hear it again later from Kapila. You know what I mean? It's like the same kind of thing. So I'm so grateful for this, and I'm really looking forward to understanding material nature. That's the first chapter. So yeah, let's do a little bit of obeisances. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you for everybody for being here with us. So take a deep breath, and before reciting the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, one must first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By attending regular classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering a service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact.
Yes. Hare Krishna. I love that. I love it. I was just reading the glossary because I love a book and I love a glossary, and there's always really information in there. And I was reading about how Vasudeva is still alive here on Earth. Yeah. You know, there's like some people that are immortals or whatever. Vasudeva apparently is one of them.
Where is he?
That's where I just read in the back of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam.
All right, somebody give us some information.
Where is he, everyone?
Someone give us some information on this.
Is he in a cave somewhere? Is he like up in the Himalayas? Is he like, what's he up to? Shout out to Vasudeva.
Shout out. Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Things you learn from the glossary.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I love a glossary, an index, a dictionary.
Yes.
I'm a book nerd. Okay, here we are. Chapter 27, Understanding Material Nature. We begin.
Woo!
Text 1. The personality of Godhead, Kapila, continued. When the living entity is thus unaffected by the modes of material nature, because he is unchanging and does not claim proprietorship, he remains apart from the reactions of the modes, although abiding in a material body, just as the sun remains aloof from its reflection on water.
Okay.
Starting deep. Kapila's starting going in deep on this.
It's so funny because if I don't read every single word, kind of mouthing it along with you, it's like, oh, start again, read again. It's like every word, I'm like hanging on every word.
Right.
Okay. Text 2. When the soul is under the spell of material nature and false ego, identifying his body as the self, he becomes absorbed in material activities. And by the influence of false ego, he thinks that he is the proprietor of everything.
I mean, who hasn't been in their ego before? You get really caught up in that business with your ego.
Mm-hmm.
You get offended, you get mad, you get sad, you get rejected, you get all the things because you think that's happening to you.
Yeah.
Like your character or whatever. Your false ego convinces you.
Yeah.
It's not so. Okay, text 3. The conditioned soul, therefore, transmigrates into different species of life, higher and lower, because of his association with the modes of material nature. Unless he is relieved of material activities, he has to accept this position because of his faulty work.
Wow. So that saying like this is like when you manifest into a squirrel or a bird or a human or
Yeah. And you have to
a
keep
tree.
trying. And by faulty work, he probably just means we make mistakes.
Right.
As humans, we're actually meant to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're told we can't make mistakes or it's not acceptable, but we're here to make mistakes.
Right.
Truly. And I feel like that's what it's saying. He has to accept this position. Yeah, you have to. That's like life is what it is. You have to eat, you have to sleep. There's just things about it you have to accept while you're here.
Yeah.
True. Actually, a living entity is transcendental to material existence, but because of his mentality of lording it over material nature, his material existential condition does not cease. And just as in a dream, he is affected by all sorts of disadvantages. Yeah. Okay. So it's almost like your higher self is not really attached to this material mode of existence like
right,
we
that's pure spirit soul, that is you.
Right. The false ego has us here.
Right. Text 5.
Yeah.
It is the duty of every conditioned soul to engage his polluted consciousness, which is now attached to material enjoyment, in very serious devotional service with detachment. Thus his mind and consciousness will be under full control.
Right. This is the test, friends.
This is the duty.
Right now, right here and now.
Mm-hmm.
One has to become faithful by practicing the controlling process of the yoga system and must elevate himself to the platform of unalloyed devotional service by chanting and hearing about me. Wonderful.
In executing devotional service, one has to see every living entity equally, without enmity, without enmity towards anyone, yet without intimate connections with anyone. One has to observe celibacy, be grave and execute his eternal activities, offering the results to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, that's much easier read than done.
Yes. Is this where he's really talking about the serious yogi practitioner that just goes for it and just gives away all the possessions and
Right.
completely just commits himself? For his income, a devotee should be satisfied with what he earns without great difficulty. He should not eat what is more than he should not eat more than what is necessary. He should live in a secluded place and always be thoughtful, peaceful, friendly, compassionate, and self-realized. Yeah.
One's seeing power should be increased through the knowledge of spirit and matter, and one should not unnecessarily identify himself with the body and thus become attracted by bodily relationships.
Again, easier said than done.
Yep.
One should be situated in the transcendental position, beyond the stages of the material consciousness, and should be aloof from all other conceptions of life. Thus, realizing freedom from false ego, one should see his own self just as he sees the sun in the sky. Mm-hmm.
A liberated soul realizes the absolute personality of Godhead, who is transcendental and who is manifest as a reflection even in the false ego. He is the support of the material cause, and he enters into everything. He is absolute, one without a second, and he is the eyes of the illusory energy.
The presence of the Supreme Lord can be realized just as the sun is realized first as a reflection on water, and again as a second reflection on the wall of a room, although the sun itself is situated in the sky. Oh, I love that. I actually love that analogy, because it's like that idea of like, you can see the sun, you can see the reflection of the sun, you can see the effect of the sun, the light of the sun, but you're not looking at the sun.
Right.
But you do feel it. You feel it before you go outside and look.
Right. Yeah. Well, the self-realized soul is thus reflected first in the threefold ego and then in the body, senses, and mind.
Yeah. Okay. Although a devotee appears to be merged in the 5 material elements, the objects of material enjoyment, the material senses, and material mind and intelligence, he is understood to be awake and to be freed from the false ego.
The living entity can vividly feel his existence as the seer, but because of the disappearance of the ego during the state of deep sleep, he falsely takes himself to be lost, like a man who has lost his fortune and feels distressed, thinking himself to be lost.
When by mature understanding one can realize his individuality, then the situation he accepts under false ego becomes manifest to him.
Sri Devahuti inquired, "My dear Brahman, does material nature ever give release to the spirit soul? Since one is attracted to the other eternally, how is our separation possible?" Good question.
Devahūti, good question. As there is no separate existence of the earth and its aroma, or of water and its taste, there cannot be any separate existence of intelligence and consciousness. It's really interesting that this is being asked, because science is looking at that right now and trying to figure out what is consciousness, and they don't really know.
Well,
So
I'm excited to see what Kapila
right.
says to this.
Seriously.
Hence, even though he is the passive performer of all activities, how can there be freedom for the soul as long as material nature acts on him and binds him?
Yeah, how? Even if the great fear of bondage is avoided by mental speculation and inquiry inquiry into the fundamental principles, it may still appear again, since its cause has not ceased. Okay, I gotta say, I need to like read that again. My brain is like, okay. Even if the great fear of bondage is avoided by mental speculation and inquiry into the fundamental principles, it may still appear again, since its cause has not ceased. Yeah.
Because we're still, because you're still in the material.
Yeah, we're still here. Yeah, okay.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "One can get liberated by seriously discharging devotional service unto me and thereby hearing for a long time about me or from me. By thus executing one's prescribed duties, there will be no reaction, and no one will be freed from the contamination of matter."
And one.
I was like, what? By thus executing one's prescribed duties, there will be no reaction, and one will be freed from the contamination of matter.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like maybe we're stuck together. Okay. This devotional service has to be performed strongly in perfect knowledge and with transcendental vision. Transcendental vision. One must be strongly renounced and must engage in austerity and perform mystic yoga in order to be firmly fixed in self-absorption.
Okay. The influence of material nature has covered the living entity, and thus it is as if the living entity were always in a blazing fire. But by the process of seriously discharging devotional service, this influence can be removed, just as wooden sticks which cause a fire are themselves consumed by it.
By discovering the faultiness of his desiring to lord it over material nature, and by therefore giving it up, the living entity becomes independent and stands in his own glory. It's true, though, in that when you do overcome something, you do feel like that. When you overcome something of material nature, whether it's like a temptation, whether it's a struggle or a challenge or whatever, you do feel that you stand in your own glory. It's true.
This is so profound yet again.
Even though you didn't do it because you took no action.
Right.
It's, yeah,
Right.
it's like my mind is just trying to always wrap my brain around what is actually being said. So again, I just encourage you, if you're listening to us and you're like, yeah, no, you guys totally missed that, please let us know. We
Oh,
really
yeah.
love it.
Someone usually does, and think, yeah, yes, it's welcomed.
Very welcomed. So thank you for your patience with us. Okay.
Text 25.
Yeah.
In the dreaming state, one's consciousness is almost covered, and one sees many inauspicious things. But when he is awakened and fully conscious, such inauspicious things cannot bewilder him.
The influence of material nature cannot harm an enlightened soul, even though he engages in material activities, because he knows the truth of the absolute, and his mind is fixed on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
When a person thus engages in devotional service and self-realization for many, many years and births, he becomes completely reluctant to enjoy one of the material planets, even up to the highest planet, which is known as Brahmaloka. He becomes fully developed in consciousness.
My devotee actually becomes self-realized by my unlimited causeless mercy. And thus, when freed from all doubts, he steadily progresses toward his destined abode, which is directly under the protection of my spiritual energy of unadulterated bliss.
Wow.
That is the ultimate perfectional goal of the living entity. Let me just say that again. Right. That is the ultimate perfectional goal of the living entity. After giving up the present material body, the mystic devotee goes to that transcendental abode and never comes back.
I was just saying this to someone.
But I was just reading or watching something about this whole idea of not coming back ever.
Yeah. What were you reading? I was just talking to someone about that. It's like a decision that, well, I know there's so many factors to it. Your samsaras, your karma, all of that is playing a role in whether or not you're even on the path in this lifetime to decide to not come back.
Yeah.
But whoa, that's a decision.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Going to live in Vaikuntha.
Right.
See you later.
Brahmaloka. I'm going straight to Brahmaloka.
See you later, Earth.
See you later, Earth. Samadhi.
Okay, text 30. When a person.
I think it is. I think it is you. Is it you?
Okay. Is it me?
I don't
know.
know.
It isn't. It's you. It's you.
Okay. When a perfect yogi's attention is no longer attracted by the byproducts of mystic powers, which are manifestations of the external energy, his progress towards me becomes unlimited, and thus the power of death cannot overcome him.
Yeah. I mean, you can only fly around the universe so much, right? And just like use your powers, your yogic powers, and you're floating all over and you know all the stuff. Pretty soon you're like, yeah, okay, I've done enough Earth lives.
Oh, that's the end of. Can we read it? Yeah, right. Can we read chapter 28?
I mean, we can.
Let's Kapila's instructions on the execution of devotional service. I'm interested to hear.
Yeah.
What are the instructions? How do we execute that,
Yeah.
Kapila?
He's still talking to his mother.
Yes.
Okay. Was that me or you?
You.
The personality of God had said, "My dear mother, O daughter of the king, now I shall explain to you the system of yoga, the object of which is to concentrate the mind. By practicing this system, one can become joyful and progressively advanced toward the path of absolute truth." I'm in, Kapila.
One should execute his prescribed duties to the best of his ability and avoid performing duties not allotted to him. One should be satisfied with as much gain as he achieves by the grace of the Lord, and one should worship the lotus feet of a spiritual master.
One should cease performing conventional religious practices and should be attracted to those which lead to salvation. One should eat very frugally and should always remain secluded so that he can achieve the highest perfection of life.
Okay, this is interesting.
Yeah.
One should practice nonviolence and truthfulness, should avoid thieving and be satisfied with possessing as much as he needs for his maintenance. He should abstain from sex life, perform austerity, be clean, study the Vedas, and worship the supreme form of the personality of Godhead.
One must observe silence, acquire steadiness by practicing different yogic postures, control the breathing of the vital air, withdraw the senses from sense objects, and thus concentrate the mind on the heart.
Fixing the vital air in the mind in one of the 6 circles of vital air circulation within the body, thus concentrating one's mind on the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called samadhi or samadhana of the mind.
By these processes, or any other true process, one must control the contaminated, unbridled mind, which is always attracted by material enjoyment, and thus fix himself in thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
After controlling one's mind in sitting postures, one should spread a seat in a secluded and sanctified place, sit there in an easy posture, keeping the body erect, and practice breath control.
The yogi should clear the passage of vital air by breathing in the following manner. First, he should inhale very deeply, then hold the breath in and finally exhale. Or, reversing the process, the yogi can first exhale, then hold the breath outside, and finally inhale. This is done so that the mind may become steady and free from external disturbances.
And
Let me
it's true.
let me just advocate. Yeah, I've definitely done this many times, a lot recently.
Yes.
I'm like, you know what? Breathe. Just breathe. Just
You
breathe.
can't be stressed. Your body can't feel it if you are
Yeah.
breathing in this manner.
Yeah.
Belly breaths like that.
Yeah.
The yogis who practice such breathing exercises are very soon freed from all mental disturbances, just as gold, when put in the fire and fanned with air, becomes free from all impurities. Yeah, just imagine if any time you felt that. Just imagine if you're just breathing like that all the time, actually.
We breathe so shallow.
So shallow.
I just sort of like felt like I needed to breathe in because we breathe shallow. By practicing the process of pranayama, one can eradicate the contamination of his physiological condition. And by concentrating the mind, one can become free from all sinful activities. By restraining the senses, one can free himself from material association. And by meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can become free from the 3 modes of material attachment. Okay.
When the mind is perfectly purified by this practice of yoga, one should concentrate on the tip of the nose with half-closed eyes and see the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead has a cheerful lotus-like countenance with ruddy eyes like the interior of a lotus, and a swarthy body like the petals of the blue lotus. He bears a conch, discus, and mace in 3 of his hands.
His loins are covered by a shining cloth, yellowish like the filaments of a lotus. On his breasts he bears the mark of Shrivatya, a curl of white hair. The brilliant Kastuba gem is suspended from his neck.
He also wears around his neck a garland of attractive sylvan flowers, and a swarm of bees, intoxicated by its delicious fragrance, hums about the garland. He is further superbly adorned with a pearl necklace, a crown, and pairs of armlets, bracelets, and anklets.
His loins and hips encircled by a girdle, he stands on the lotus of his devotee's heart. He is the most charming to look at, and his serene aspect gladdens the eyes and souls of the devotees who behold him.
I always love the physical descriptions that were given, and just the descriptions of the jewels and the body and the color of the skin and just all of it. It's delicious. And I love it. The Lord is eternally very beautiful, and he is worshipable by all the inhabitants of every planet. He is ever youthful and is always eager to bestow his blessing upon his devotees.
Isn't that kind of lovely to think about? Literally, other beings on other planets worshiping Krishna?
Yeah.
Or worshiping the Supreme Personality in whatever form they choose.
It is.
Kind of cool. Like, you think you don't have a connection to other beings on other planets, and unless you're all devotees.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Krishna says that in the Gita, that I am the Lord and the recipient of all worship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, where are we?
Text 18.
Yeah.
The glory of the Lord is always worth singing, for his glories enhance the glories of his devotees. One should therefore meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead and upon his devotees. One should meditate on the eternal form of the Lord until the mind becomes fixed.
Thus, always merged in devotional service, the yogi visualizes the Lord standing, moving, lying down, or sitting within him. For the pastimes of the Supreme Lord are always beautiful and attractive.
In fixing his mind on the eternal form of the Lord, the yogi should not take a collective view of all his limbs. He should fix the mind on each individual limb of the Lord.
We've kind of heard this before a little bit about
Yeah.
looking at like the feet.
Yeah.
And when I've thought about and tried to meditate like on the gigantic form, I can never get past the toe.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
it's like, whoa. The devotee should first concentrate his mind on the Lord's lotus feet, which are adorned with the marks of a thunderbolt, a goad, a banner, and a lotus. The splendor of their beautiful ruby nails resembles the orbit of the moon and dispels the thick gloom of one's heart. Oh,
Wow.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
The blessed Lord Shiva becomes all the more blessed by bearing on his head the holy waters of the Did I skip a page? No.
No.
Holy waters of the Ganges, which has its source in the water that wash the Lord's lotus feet. The Lord's feet act like thunderbolts hurled to shatter the mountain of sin stored in the mind of the meditating devotee. One should therefore meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord for a long time.
I love that. The Lord's feet act like thunderbolts hurled to shatter the mountain of sin stored in the mind of the meditating devotee. What? I need that painting.
Right.
Like his foot, it's like a giant lightning bolt just like smashing into me. Amazing. The yogi should fix in his heart the activities of Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, who is worshipped by all demigods and is the mother of the Supreme Person, Brahma. She can always be found massaging the legs and thighs of the Transcendental Lord, very carefully serving him in this way. Ay, ay, ay. It's like such an intimate picture. Ah,
I
so good.
didn't know Lakshmi was the mother of the Supreme Person Brahma. I didn't know that. Didn't realize that, I guess.
I think like Lakshmi and Parvati and like the different names of the goddess are just different fractals of
Aspects.
her.
Yeah.
Incarnations, manifestations. Obviously somebody tell me if I'm wrong there, but
No, that's right, right. She's different aspects. It's the
yeah,
different aspects of the goddess.
right.
Wow. She can be found massaging the legs and thighs of the Transcendental Lord,
You
very carefully serving him in this way. Next, the yogi should fix his mind in meditation on the personality of Godhead's thighs, the storehouse of all energy. The Lord's thighs are whitish blue, like the luster of the linseed flower, and appear almost graceful when the Lord is carried on the shoulders of Garuda. Also, the yogi should contemplate his rounded hips, which are encircled by a girdle that rests on the exquisite yellow silk cloth that extends down to his ankles.
The yogi should then meditate on his moon-like navel in the center of his abdomen. From his navel, which is the foundation of the entire universe, we've read about this, sprang the lotus stem containing all the different planetary systems. The lotus is the residence of Brahma, the first created being. In the same way, the yogi should concentrate his mind on the Lord's nipples, which resemble a pair of most exquisite emeralds and which appear whitish because of the rays of milk white pearl necklaces adorning his chest.
Wow.
Wow.
The yogi should then meditate on the chest of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the abode of Goddess Mahalakshmi. The Lord's chest is the source of all transcendental pleasure for the mind and full satisfaction for the eyes. The yogi should then imprint on his mind the neck of the Personality of Godhead, who is adorned by the entire universe. The neck of the Lord serves to enhance the beauty of the Kaustubha gem, which hangs on his chest.
The yogi should further meditate upon the Lord's four arms, which are the source of all the powers of the demigods who control the various functions of material nature. Then the yogi should concentrate on the polished ornaments, which were burnished by Mount Mandara as it revolved. He should also duly contemplate the Lord's discus, the Sudarsana chakra, which contains 1,000 spokes and a dazzling luster, as well as the conch, which looks like a swan in his lotus-like palm.
The yogi should then meditate upon his club, which is named Kanmodaki and is very dear to him. The club smashes the demons who are always inimical soldiers and is smeared with their blood. One should also concentrate on the nice garland on the neck of the Lord, which is always surrounded by bumblebees with their nice buzzing sound. And one should meditate upon the pearl necklace on the Lord's neck, which is considered to represent the pure living entities who are always engaged in his service.
Excuse me. The yogi should then meditate on the lotus-like countenance of the Lord, who presents his different forms in this world out of compassion for the anxious devotees. His nose is prominent, and his crystal clear cheeks are illuminated by the oscillation of his glittering alligator-shaped earrings. So interesting.
The yogi then meditates upon the beautiful face of the Lord, which is adorned with curly hair and decorated by lotus-like eyes and dancing eyebrows. A lotus surrounded by swarming bees and a pair of swimming fish would be put to shame by its elegance.
The yogi should contemplate with full devotion the compassionate glances frequently cast by the Lord's eyes, for they soothe the most fearful threefold agonies of his devotees. His glances, accompanied by loving smiles, are full of abundant grace. It reminds me of that scene of like the women on the, the roof as they're watching Krishna leave Hastinapur. They're crying and they're like fainting and he just glances and they're like,
yes. Exactly. A yogi should similarly meditate on the most benevolent smile of Lord Sri Hari, a smile which, for all those who bow to him, dries away the ocean of tears caused by intense grief. The yogi should also meditate on the Lord's arched eyebrows, which are manifested by his internal potency in order to charm the sex god for the good of the sages.
Which devotion steeped in love and affection, the yogi should meditate within the core of his heart upon the laughter of Lord Vishnu. The laughter of Vishnu is so captivating that it can be easily meditated upon. When the Supreme Lord is laughing, one can see his small teeth, which resemble jasmine buds, rendered rosy by the splendor of his lips. Once devoting his mind to this, the yogi should no longer desire to see anything else. What could be better than seeing Lord Vishnu laugh No, seriously, honestly, what else is there? So good.
By following this course, the yogi gradually develops pure love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari. In the course of his progress in devotional service, the hairs on his body stand erect through excessive joy, and he is constantly bathed in a stream of tears occasioned by intense love. Gradually, even the mind, which he used as a means to attract the Lord, as one attracts a fish to a hook, withdraws from material activity.
Yeah. When the mind is thus completely freed from all material contamination and detached from material objectives, it is just like the flame of a lamp. At that time, the mind is actually dovetailed with that of the Supreme Lord and is experienced as one with him because it is freed from the interactive flow of the material qualities. Yeah, once you totally separate from the material nature and completely let go of that, then you get a mind meld with this amazing.
Thus situated in the highest transcendental stage, the mind ceases from all material reactions and becomes situated in its own glory, transcendental to all material conceptions of happiness and distress. At that time, the yogi realizes the truth of his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He discovers that pleasure and pain, as well as their interactions, which is attributed to his own self, are actually due to the false ego, which is a product of ignorance.
Yeah, even when you know that and you're still doing it, even you can know that it's still you can't not. The illusion is too good. It's too
so
good.
strong. It's so strong.
Because he has achieved his real identity, the perfectly realized soul has no conception of how the material body is moving or acting. Just as an intoxicated person cannot understand whether or not he has clothing on his body. I love it. You're drunk with you're drunk with the illusion.
Yeah.
Or you're not. Or once you separate, then you're no longer drunk with illusion.
Yes, exactly. You're actually drunk on the personality of Godhead now.
Yeah, totally.
From the mind melt with Vishnu.
Right.
The body of such a liberated yogi, along with the senses, is taken charge of by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it functions until its destined activities are finished. The liberated devotee, being awake to his constitutional position, and thus situated in samadhi, the highest perfectional stage of yoga, does not accept the byproduct of the material body as his own. Thus he considers his bodily activities to be like the activities of a body in a dream.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Because of great affection for family and wealth, one accepts a son and some money as his own, but due to affection for the material body, one thinks that it is his. But actually, as one can understand that his family and wealth are different from him, the liberated soul can understand that he and his body are not the same. I am not this avatar.
Yeah.
Yes.
The blazing fire is different from the flames, from the sparks and from the smoke, although all are intimately connected because they are born from the same blazing wood.
Right. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as the Param Brahma, is the seer. He is different from the Jiva soul, or individual living entity who is combined with the senses, the five elements, and consciousness. Right.
A yogi should see the same soul in all manifestations, for all that exists is a manifestation of different energies of the Supreme.
Yeah.
In this way, the devotee should see all living entities without distinction. That is realization of the Supreme Soul.
As fire is exhibited in different forms of wood, so under different conditions of the modes of material nature, the pure spirit soul manifests itself in different bodies.
Thus, the yogi can be in the self-realized position after conquering the insurmountable spell of Maya, who presents herself as both the cause and effect of this material manifestation is therefore very difficult to understand.
Yeah, that ends the chapter. Okay. I almost want to read that one more time because it's like such a good way to end this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thus, the yogi can be in the self-realized position after conquering the insurmountable spell of Maya, who presents herself as both the cause and the effect of this material manifestation, and is therefore very difficult to understand. I think that's the understatement of the book.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Well,
He's-
here's my one question.
Yeah.
I'm not living in a secluded place. That's my thought. You know,
Yeah.
and it says very clearly, actually multiple times, that you need to be living in a secluded place. And so what?
If that's the path you're choosing to return, and you're like, you know what? I'm not coming back here. Now you have the directions, Shay.
Yeah.
We didn't pick that life. Like you didn't pick that. Like you still could though. You still could. You still could walk off into the mountain or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, you could. I mean, I guess that's how I'm taking it, because I've also heard Krishna say, just like, keep your eyes on me, like devotion,
Right.
bhakti.
And actually, I was listening to your beautiful recording of the Gita this morning, and it says in there, Krishna tells us that if you're chanting Om and have your mind fixed on Krishna at the time of death, you will undoubtedly go to him.
Yeah.
And so he's not telling me that I need to be isolated.
He's not, but I do think there are multiple ways to
Right.
get back
Okay.
to wherever we're going, or get through this experience, or to make
Right.
our way to Maya, the illusion. There's multiple ways. We have been told that. So
Right.
I think this is just one of the ways.
Told by Kapila Dev. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's a Devahuti.
Yeah.
And when is this taking place? Are we in Dwarka yoga or what?
I
It's
don't
just
know.
that whole thing, right?
That's a whole thing. Yeah.
Right. So I try not to, I guess I try not to confuse myself with it too
Right.
much.
Right. Right.
We want to pick up the larger message of it, mainly.
Which is like embody the personality of Godhead and to think about
Yeah.
the transcendentalism of everything.
Yeah.
Because
You are
that's
not
what gets
God.
me. It's like there's been moments where I have felt like so completely merged with everything that's around me. Like we're all just the same.
Yeah.
And I haven't been in a secluded place per se, you know, in those moments.
Yeah. That's not it's not the current life path you're on, but you're on a different one that allows you to learn different lessons,
And
and to
I'll learn and keep reading about Krishna for a very long time. It says that
who knows, right? Who knows what could happen? You might be 70 years old and you're like, okay,
right. I'm only
walk
27.
see you later.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And it says that they won't take you until you've done all your prescribed
Yeah,
duties.
it's
So
true.
it's like
You can,
I'm bound. You're
it's true.
bound.
You can't go.
Every soul is bound in that way.
Yeah, it's true. You have to be,
Like
you
you
have
have
to,
stuff to do here. You got to do it.
yeah, or you'll just come back in a different body until you
Yeah.
do it. Sometimes when I get stuck and get frustrated, I just try to tell myself that, like, okay, I made it this far. I don't want to have to redo this whole thing in another whole body.
Right.
That's irritating, right? It's
Right.
like,
Right.
can I just push through right now?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Well,
that was really lovely. I love reading, and I love reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. I love talking to you
same.
about it. I love our people that come and watch our podcast, and if you're still listening now.
I
I
love
love you.
everything. I love
Right.
everything and everyone as
Yes.
a piece of the super soul that we are all born from.
For sure. Hare Krishna on that.
Hare
Okay, that's
Krishna.
a place to end.
All right. Until next time, my friends. We should have said this in the beginning. Meet with us. Come hang out with us on this Saturday. We're going to do Krishna Fan Club.
Yeah.
So look for our thumbnail. We would love to have you. And until then, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.